Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Eddie with the Sound Q Garage Podcast. Yes, that's right. I'm back. It's June 12th today. I know it's been a while. I want to apologize to everybody, all to the Sound Q Podcast listeners out there. It's been a while. Been busy with work. Got a new guest today. His name is Cal Cundiff. I want to introduce you to everybody. Oh, they're excited to hear about you. What's up, Cal?
Funny, I had to listen to jingle. It went on a little while there.
Hey, buddy, what's up? So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Okay. Well, my name's Cal Cundiff. I live in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, specifically Palm Harbor. 54 years old, getting up there. Married 26 years, and I have two kids, a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old. Named Colton and Sage, and my wife is Debbie. So that's the short version of me.
You make yourself sound so old, 54. I'm gonna be 53 soon, so yeah, I guess.
Well, I mean, we're getting up there, buddy. I'm starting to think about time a lot more nowadays. You know?
Yeah, it's true. I'm starting to feel the arthritis on some of my bones. I hate to admit it.
Yeah, you and me both.
So I got a good buddy. His name is Ryan. He's a mutual friend of ours, and he said that you would be a good guest. And so the reason I brought you on is because I wanted the listeners out there to get a perspective from sort of like a more DIY type guy. And Ryan said that you would be a good guest for that. So why don't you tell the people out there what you drive and what you got in your car or truck? I'm sorry, right? You got an F-150?
Yes. Yeah, an F-150. Well, you know, that first of all, that Ryan guy, he's kind of, I don't think his elevator goes all the way to the top. So just I'll preface that. But anyway, yeah, so I drive a 22 F-150. I've always been kind of a pickup truck guy. So it's worked well, and it worked for me because, you know, Fords and Jeeps and everything like that, they're so heavily accessorized. So they make it easy to do, you know, audio and all that good stuff. So that's the only vehicle I've ever, you know, done pretty much car audio in. Probably the only one I ever will for, you know, this point forward. That's pretty much where I'm at as far as the F-150 goes.
So what's your system consist of?
So right now, I have a 3-way front stage, and I'm running a ARC Audio RS3 mid-range and ARC Audio RS1 tweeter. I have Excelsis 875s in the door, 8-inch mid-bass in the door. I have 2 JL 10-inch shallows in the back under the rear seat. I have Morel tempos in the coaxes in the back. I specifically kept it as an OEM build. What do I have now? I'm always cycling things out. I can't seem to stop that. But right now I'm still using my Museway amps. I've got a Museway 4-channel, a Museway 6-channel, and Museway mono. And then, of course, I have my MiniDSP with Dirac Live. So, and I've been real happy with that. That's, you know, as far as anything else changing or any changes I'm going to make, I probably will never change the Mini. It sits well with me. I really like it. It's taken me a while to get even moderately proficient with it, but it's one of those hobbies. There's just so much to learn, man. And I look at other stuff, and I'm to a point now. I'm like, you know, unless I do some serious fabrication, my OEM location is just, it is what it is. It's probably as good as it's going to get. So,
yeah, I mean, a lot of people out there don't understand that you could get some pretty good results with OEM locations, especially in a pickup truck like yours. You got, you know, plenty of space for 8-inch mid basses and solid locations, but DSP has come a long way.
Yeah, you do. And it's nice. Well, the biggest change I made, or I should say the most important change I made for the F-150 guys and girls, is doing that Unleash conversion. I had just a non-B&O 7-speaker system, and it had the tweeters and the A-pillars cross-firing, and then, you know, some 6x9s down the door. Well, what they don't tell people with the 21 plus Fords, I think it was 21 to 26 Fords, is if you have just a standard system, well, underneath that dash panel on the front, you've got areas to mount speakers. And as soon as I heard that, and I pulled it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can put some 3 inches, you know, down there. I found some B&O A-pillars on eBay that it just basically puts the tweeter a little more on axis. It's really, really not super ideal. But, you know, I was talking to some guys at like MTI Acoustics and Jeff Hall, guys that do a lot of the F-150s, and like, oh man, it's a fantastic front stage OEM location. And then of course, when I was able to do the three-way and just start learning to tune that, it was a difference maker for me, no doubt. And I haven't really messed with it since. I see some of the really, really nice stuff, some of the fabrication. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the temptation is starting to grow strong. So
we were talking offline about how you said you actually just recently got into it. What was that aha moment that made you get into car audio and, you know, that you realized car audio could sound this good?
When I bought this truck, you know, I've always just been happy with stock OEM systems. I've just never really given it much thought. The non-B&O system in the Fords is just awful. It's so bad. And so I have a friend who I knew was in car audio, and we'll come to find out, you know, and this is before I knew anything about car audio. I know we were talking offline, you know, I didn't even know who Crutchfield was. So I called him up and I'm like, hey man, you know, I'm thinking about improving my system. Well, you know, unbeknownst to me, he was already fully in SQ. He had a Helix DSP. Jeff Hall had done a remote tune on his car and he was all into it. I didn't know anything about it. He goes, well, come over and listen to my, he's got a Bronco. And he said, come over and listen to my Bronco. And he goes, let me let you hear what really good car audio sounds like. And I'm like, okay, so I'll come over here. Well, you know, for anyone that has never heard an SQ system before, you know, it almost takes a little bit of training to train your mind to hear bass up on dash and to hear vocal center. You know, most of the time it's just coming out of each individual speaker. And I didn't like it at first. I heard it and I'm going, okay, well, man, it's, you know, it sounds weird. I'm just not, I just never heard anything like this before. He's like, well, man, you know, you got to get some good equipment, do it right the first time. Don't waste money on stuff. You know, don't waste money on gear that's not going to be right. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Whatever you say, man, whatever you say. And so I didn't listen to a thing he told me.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen to anything he said. No, I was like, no, I kind of like surround, you know, like home audio. I want to feel like I'm in like a movie theater. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, whatever you say. So I had been on an F-150 forum where some of the guys were talking about sound quality. And there was one in particular, one guy, he was doing remote tunes and he was the one that was mentioning, well, you know, put a DSP in your truck and this is what this does. And I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. So I ordered my first system from a guy on there. I was all happy and I had it on my kitchen counter. And I called my buddy over and I was like, oh man, I'm getting in this car audio thing. And the $1,000 I spent, I was mortified. I couldn't believe I'd ever spend so much money on something. Now I laugh at that. And
yeah,
I was like, oh, $1,000? You kidding me? What kind of system? Who would spend $1,000 on car audio? That is nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, no way. It was everything I could do to do it. And actually, I got to make sure my wife, I'm not speaking too loud because my wife may be 2 rooms over. She may hear me.
Yeah. Anyway. Hold on. Let me go back. Yeah. Wait, what'd you spend? Hold on. Oh, okay, wait.
$100.
There we go. Yep.
So, yeah, it was funny. So my buddy comes over and I was so happy. I got this little Rockford powered 8-inch, you know, little Rockford sub. And I got some Morel speakers and I put it, you know, and it was all piled up on the kit. He looks at it. He just looks, he says in the first 10 seconds, he goes, you're going to want more bass in a month. I'm like, oh, whatever, man. No chance. So anyway, that was my first foray into car audio, but definitely not the last.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. It's funny because, you know, a lot of times like people don't realize that they can get good sound in a car. Cause I'm not going to lie. It's difficult to get. I mean, you could get loud and clear in a car, you know, that's easy, installing it and putting some treatment in the car and even putting some nice clean bass. But to get the car to image correctly, that's the money shot right there. That's the hard part. That's what I think. Cause
I was still not even close to that, Ed. I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to sound so much better. I'm putting these high dollar speakers in. It was like Morel Maximo speakers.
Yeah.
You know, I got this little 4-channel audio control, micro amp, and no DSP, of course. When I got the stuff, it was just, I didn't even know how to hook anything up. I ordered it and I wasn't even thinking, you know, okay, well, how am I going to do this? I said, I'll just figure it out. Not worried about it. It didn't even, you know, DSP was so far from the conversation at that point, you know, well, it really wasn't that far, but I just wasn't thinking about it. When I got the system hooked up and my wife got in the car, and I'm like, oh man, listen to this. And she's like, it sounds terrible. She goes, I'm sorry. She goes, I know you're so proud of it and everything, but it just does not sound good. And it is anybody's guess how it was. I'm sure everything was out of phase. My probably polarities flipped on my sub, and it was rough.
Wait, so how did you start getting on the learning curve then? Like, how did you learn what was good and what wasn't?
So I'm embarrassed to say it, but I got all this gear, and here I am. I didn't think it through. I got it. The guy I got it from, I thought he was just going to kind of give me everything I needed, and so I didn't get a power kit, a power wire, ground, any of the ferrules, any connection. I got nothing. I had the 8-gauge power wire that came with the sub. And I thought I was just going to, run that through, and that's what was going to power my system. I called my friend back over, and he was really busy. He couldn't help me as much at the time. And he's like, "No, man, you got to go get an amplifier kit and get the power wire and everything." I didn't know anything about gauge wire or anything. So that's when I started my YouTube journey. Pretty much the main, I spent hours and hours and hours on YouTube just for installation. And thankfully there is a lot of stuff on the Fords. So, a couple of my favorites were Provo Beast Audio, 5-Star, Dean and Fernando, those guys, Mark at Car Audio Fabrication, and PSS Sound. And that was where I got most of my information as far as wiring and everything up. But I'd go watch the video 10 minutes. Okay. I'd try to memorize everything. I'd run out, pop the dash off, look, make sure it matched up with the video. And I literally did this. There he is, a 54-year-old man, or 52 at the time, going back and forth, watching the video, going back out, watching the video, going back out. Finally got everything run. I got, to my hookup. I made my own little ABT plastic amp rack and away I went. So that was how I taught myself how to do it. Now at this time, I hadn't done any sound treatment in the truck or anything like that. So unfortunately, I didn't learn to do it right the first time, and I had to go back in so many more times to fix or improve or correct or whatever the case may be with that. But I pretty much did it all on YouTube videos and DIY. I found DIY. He had told me about DIY, and I started kind of looking at pictures and videos and just asking tons of questions. I'm sure I annoyed just about everybody I talked to. Finally got, and the big help I got from the one guy that I ordered it from was he had designed a T-harness for me. So, I didn't have to cut any wires. I could bypass the head unit there, hook it up into the head unit and bypass for the amp and all that good stuff. So that was my very first car audio system. I found that little Rockford 8. I had an audio control 4-channel ACM, the Maximo two-way component system in the front. I was off to the races.
And what'd you have for DSP at that time?
I had no DSP. Yeah, I had no DSP. So I hated it. It didn't sound good. I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I was just gonna, put speakers on an amp and crank it up, and it was just gonna sound wonderful. I was in for, I was disappointed quite a bit. So I went back and started talking and investigating the DSPs more. I didn't understand anything about crossovers, timing. I was so basic into this. So I started researching that, and I started researching, well, what sounds good, and everything like that. So by this time, the Tampa Expo had a show, an SQ show. And I'm like, well, this is a perfect opportunity, because the only car I had heard that was tuned for SQ was my friend's. I'm like, well, I'm going to go over there and check it out, And so that I went over, and that was when I first met, gosh, who did I meet? Matter of fact, the very first car I ever sat in was John Center's car. And then I listened to Miguel's, Jeff Hall's, Mike and Chris Myers. So the best cars to listen to, and I didn't know at the time, but probably I couldn't have picked 5 better cars to go listen to, So, and I was like, wow, okay. Now I'm starting to get it. And, I talked to them a lot, and okay, this is what I have to do, and this is what I'm going for, and everything like that. And they told me a little bit about competition. I didn't really know too much about that. So I took that and then went back at it. And that's where I really started researching DSPs. My first DSP was a Dayton Audio, a DSP 408. I found it used on Marketplace. Looked that up, start learning crossovers and just basic DSP tuning. And I'm like, okay, I started learning about, what the crossovers do. I didn't know anything about EQ, anything about, frequency response, anything like that. That was kind of my entry level into the DSP world. From there, I went to a Helix, a DSP 3S Helix, and that had a lot more features, obviously. And so that's when I started tuning into Raw Cat and Resonix. Resonix at the time had a lot of information about the Helix, and Raw Cat. That's when I really started getting a little deeper into tuning, all the principles behind it, and where I could go in. I started playing around with, all the different features of the DSPs and how it made it sound and everything like that. So and I was still so raw. I just didn't know, I was still fighting installation issues. I'd go open the truck back up again and mess with something, and it was constantly something. So,
Yeah, oh yeah, it always is, especially if you're a perfectionist. It starts to drive you crazy. This one little buzz, and you're crazy all this time and energy.
I was far from it at that point, to be honest, Ed. I was just happy when I could hear music coming out of the speakers, if that gives you any idea. I wasn't advanced. I mean, I was so proud I was able to just wire this up myself, because I researched the cost, and it's not cheap to do professional work as far as the installation goes. I went down and talked to Paul at 5-star there at Dean Hernando's, and just got an idea. I'm like, well, before I throw in the towel and pay someone to do it, I want to do it myself. So I was just getting sound out of the speakers for me was a huge deal. I was like, oh my God, okay, I can do this. This isn't, I had a lot of frustrating moments, but I can do this. I had the Helix for a little while, and I was trying to think. I don't know what started me on the Mini and Dirac. I can't remember who I was talking to about it or whatever. But then I found the thread on DIY, with you guys. Started kind of just kicking back and seeing what you guys were all doing, and I'm like, okay, I'll give this one a try. So I've never gone back since then. It's been a wonderful tool. It has its drawbacks like everything else, but
oh yeah. A lot of people think that it's it's auto tune, and I'm like, no, it's not auto tune. It's not. Yeah. It's not like that at all. Trust me. And
far from it. Yeah.
Yep. You got to know a little bit of tuning techniques to get in there, because Dirac gets you close, but it doesn't get you like all the way there. I don't think I don't even know if Helix. I know Helix has like a auto tune, but it's not like you could just set it up and walk away and you got a 100% tune. I'm sure it's the same thing like Dirac. You set it up, and then you got to go in there, and Ryan calls it, you got to massage. You got to massage it.
You massage.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, and because I think the Helix, they've got that DSP Tool 6 now. I think it has pretty good auto. Mm-hmm. But it's nice because the group here, and I am the only one as far as I know, in all the area down here that uses the MiniDSP. So that's been interesting, because our group here, we got one guy that has an ARC audio DSP, the other's got Zapco, the other's got a Helix. So that we have a wide range of different DSPs here. So we all go kind of compare notes, and they definitely all have their goods and bads for sure. I've been, the only thing about Dirac is it's not, like you said, it's not your standard way to tune a DSP. I use the standard methods for pre-tune, post-tune, but the Dirac method itself is just a different animal. So
yeah, it takes a little trial and error, and you got to sort of teach yourself, and you also you got to be patient too, because sometimes mistakes happen, and it does. You don't get quite the tune that you were expecting, and sometimes it could get frustrating, and you're like, I'm just gonna get a Helix and let somebody else do it. And
well, it's funny you say that, and talk about frustration. Going out into your garage at 4 a.m. and you're right in the middle of a tune, and a jet flies right overhead going into Tampa International and just throws y'all off. I mean, I've backed my car into a lake and just abandoned ship a couple times. But no, but at the time, at the time when I was starting all this, I was really starting to kind of focus on competition. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I started with the Dirac, and I was debating something else, but then I'm like, Ryan and some of you guys were doing really well in competition, because you start looking at the competition, and just a few years ago it was just Helix. Everybody was using Helix, and that was the favorite DSP. And I'm like, well, maybe I made a mistake, leaving the Helix and going to this. But then I saw Ryan was doing really well, and some of those guys were doing really well in competition. So I was like, okay, well, I'll stick with this. And at that time, I talking more and kind of getting to know you guys as far as tuning and everything. But when I got to that point with the Mini, I was really kind of starting to focus on competition. I knew I wanted to do it. I knew it was a challenge I wanted to set for myself. And so that was kind of where I was sort of starting a tunnel vision on that. So
I found the Mini from basically doing research on Dyma. I don't have like a lot of, every state has their shops and stuff like that, but there was nobody near me that could do like, a high level tune. Like back then, like 2017, 2018, they were just getting started with the remote tunes and stuff like that, but nobody was doing remote tunes with like the MiniDSP. Speaking of Ryan kind of would, if you want to even call it a semi-remote tune, Ryan would kind of walk me through on the phone. Ironically enough, my last tune that I did on my car, Ryan was guiding me through. It was nighttime. I was at my wit's end, and I kind of just did the measurements real quick, and it was dark out, and I was frustrated, and I was like, this is my last shot. And I didn't even like put that much effort into it, and ironically, it was the best tune that I got.
I like you said, it can be so inconsistent. So I've had good tunes, and I'm like, well, it may be a good tune, and I learned that I need to just step away from it after, a night of frustration. I'll go back to it in the morning. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't sound too bad. And that was how I started. I started just with kind of the basic 7-channel method, the guide and DIY without anything else. I just Dirac did all the heavy lifting for the most part. And then, of course I started getting into learning the tune before the tune and learning Room EQ Wizard really well, and, acquiring mics and everything like that. But yeah, it was the same thing. I was like, it sounds good. Just Dirac on its own sounds really good. Like you said, it probably gets you, most people would be completely happy with what a basic Dirac tune will do for you.
Yeah, it gets you about 90% there, and then when you get in there, if you got a good ear, you'll be like, something's missing. That's where that last 10% comes in, you know what I mean? And that's a couple of years ago, I participated in a competition, and a couple of the judges told me what was missing, and I went back home and I did exactly what they said in my car. I know a lot of the guys like Ryan and Todd, they like to tinker and do tunes, multiple tunes. I haven't touched my tune since I got my good tune. I'm afraid to touch it.
That's well, I can't say that. I have spent so much time tuning, retuning, doing A/B comparisons, doing this, doing that. I've got a tune on there now that's not Dirac. I've just got a non-Dirac tune. I do all that. So, but yeah, But I think probably everyone who is getting into this initially, who goes the DIY route, I imagine no matter what DSP or what equipment they use, they feel the same frustration, because it's hard. I mean, it's me. I had no background. I had nothing to compare anything to. I just kind of did it on my own. I had one friend. This was before I hooked up with the group I'm in now, who's we all really help each other. Yeah, I didn't know. I couldn't just go out and go, okay, what do? I don't know what to do here. So I'd go back on YouTube, or I'd read an article or something like that. So, but that's what got me started. I knew when I finally got that, and I felt like I had a pretty good Dirac tune. I read the IASCA rules and all that good stuff, and I was like, okay, I think maybe it'll give me a pretty decent competition tune. We'll see. So that's how that started.
So you're learning from YouTube. You got a lot of trial and error. I'm sure you're making mistakes and probably information overload. What do you know now that you wish you knew on day one? Like what valuable lessons you could give the newbies out there and the do-it-yourselfers that are getting into this?
So I have found when something goes wrong, it's usually my fault. And I think people have exactly. And I was like, and something would happen, and I'd go complain, DIY, call whoever. Oh man, I can't get this in. And most of the time, if I just sat back and I thought through the problem, it was something I did wrong. I'm like, oh God. And a couple of times I've just been absolutely embarrassed to say, oh my gosh, So that is someone that is starting out that wants to do it, most of it themselves. That's the biggest thing. You just know you're going to make so many mistakes. Unless they just have some magic touch, it's not going to come easy. Yeah. I'd watch these videos of these installs. I'm like, man, these guys just make it look so simple. They're done in a couple hours. And one other thing, and that's another thing. if you plan on doing something and I'm like, oh, it'll only take 2 hours, go ahead and just triple that, because it's going to take probably 6, if not 8 hours. Like, I'll go switch the speakers out in the doors, and it ends up being an all day project. So Dean and Fernando, they're knocking that thing out in 2 hours. I should be able to do that.
Yeah, what they're not showing you is what got edited out, and the swear words and the banged up fingers and
Yeah.
going back to Home Depot
No.
or ordering stuff.
it is definitely what I tell someone new who's thinking about it. It is a labor of love. It is, and a lot of things I don't care for, and things I've had to go back and I do differently now. And I'm a lot more efficient, a lot faster. When I first started getting into the sound treatment, everybody's like, oh, you gotta have sound treatment. You gotta have sound treatment. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go get sound treatment. So I researched that. And the first time I did it, I started putting it in the truck. I wasn't wearing gloves or anything. And I cut my hands to shreds. It was just, I was just tearing myself up. So now whenever I do anything, and I'm still not finished doing that, I have mechanics gloves, and it goes just so much faster. So just little things like that, it takes a lot of time. And then you have to find someone that's patient enough to answer all your dumb questions. Some of these people are just so experienced, and it's just second nature to them. So I'm like, no, you have to really talk to me like I'm a fifth grader. I really don't know. They'll start writing, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I'm going, no, I don't. You've already lost me in the first 5 seconds. Talk to me like I'm a fifth grader. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
explain it to me like
just
I'm
learn
2
the
years
terminology.
old. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Well, some of the experience, and they really are trying to help you, and they mean well. But they'll start throwing out terminology. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, back up. What do you mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So
what's a curtain?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I asked Ryan. I was like, what's a curtain, dude? I don't even know what that means. on the Dirac.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I've asked a lot of dumb questions in the last couple of years.
Once you learn the terminology, that helps a lot, because like when you don't know what phase this and what the curtain that, or what crossover or Butterworth and things like that, you're like, what's that, Butterworth this and the different names for crossovers, and I'm like, what are the differences? And sometimes just tinkering with the DSP2 goes a long way, just playing with it, and you're like, let me see what happens here, because that's what I did. I would get in my car and try the different crossovers, and I'm like, let me see what the difference is, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then but I know with Dirac that if you follow a certain recipe, you get really good results with the guide, with the Dirac guide. I know that Ryan and them have like a method. I know you said you did the 7-channel. I think I did a 4-channel on mine. I did left, right, and sub and front sub. Do you have a front sub on yours, or a front woofer? Or?
I don't. Yeah. I don't. I still have just basic OEM, 2 subs in the back. I'm going to change my sub configuration. Mm-hmm. But I've tried a lot of different techniques now with Dirac. I've done the 7-channel method. I've done MiniDSPs recommended, where you basically design a speaker left side, right side, and then I'll bring subs in. I've blended them. I've done heavy pre-EQ, not a lot. I've tried a lot of different ways, taking measurements with the all pass filters on, taking them off, changing. It's just my only gripe about Dirac is you can't just sit there like on say take a Helix and play a tone or everything and get mess with the EQ and hear it live. You have to go in, change your target in Dirac, get out of Dirac, go back in, listen to it again. If I had one gripe, that would be the biggest gripe, is I can't adjust on the fly on certain things. I try to get as much as I can done, pre-EQ before I start going to Dirac. By the time, usually now, a Dirac is just kind of my icing on the top. By the time I get to that point, Dirac, I've got a pretty good tune going on now. So
one of the methods that the Dirac group had mentioned was just to let Dirac do its thing. That's the method that I went with. What I found with Dirac was your crossovers, picking your crossovers was like super vital. And I probably spent a month with no EQ, no nothing, no time alignment. I just literally spent a month playing with crossovers, figuring out when I found the correct crossovers, that I'm like, you know what? And my crossovers are pretty unorthodox too. Like, people were saying, oh, go with these crossovers. It's like, you can't go with what the internet says. Like, you get that information overload on the keyboard warriors, and
yes.
And you start to listen to people, and you're like, you know what? I just got to get in here and get my hands dirty and do it myself. I realized that picking the right crossovers was vital. Once I got the right crossovers, I let Dirac do its thing. And what I thought was kind of vital was definitely getting the mic measurements like correct. So I don't know if you saw, I on our group I posted pictures. I used like a mannequin thing, you know, those that like a head.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And I put it on a microphone stand, and I made sure that the mic was exactly X amount of inches from the nose, you know, where I measured where my nose would normally be, and I marked it. And I don't remember how many inches it was. You know, I know they say to keep that invisible rectangle no more than 15
Mm-hmm.
inches, I think. I think it was 8 or 9 or I don't remember, 11 inches. It was, you know, because it started creeping real close to the window. I did like a compromise, like 9 or 10 inches. I don't remember now. It's been so long. And I made sure, you know,
Hello.
I used a ruler to make sure that the opposite side was the same amount of inches. So I realized that that was because some people do it while they're sitting in the car. I didn't sit, I sat in the back seat. He likes to sit in the seat because it'll measure for because of his leg. I went against conventional wisdom, and I actually got out of there because I'm like, well, my leg is blocking the mid bass, you know, because it's in the door, and it won't get a, you know, there's kind of, you can have arguments for both sides.
I've tried both. I've tried all those ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I've tried in seat, out of seat. I've put mic stands in. I've tried a lot of different techniques.
What technique worked best for you?
Well, so my tune was Tampa in February at the Tampa Expo because I competed in that, and I sat in the back seat. I put the mic for the main listening position measurement, the first measurement, put it in one of those homemade 3D printed little mic stands, kind of sandwiched in between the seat. Got out of the seat. I have done so many things. Oh my God, I've taped string up on the ceiling. I've done. It was kind of funny. When I line up just do the judges, I've got a piece of string with a little ferrule tied at the end, and I line it up exactly in my nose. And when I put somebody in the car to listen to it, I let that hang, and I put their nose right on it, and then I tape it back up again. But
That's a good idea.
yeah,
I like
and
that. Yeah.
oh yeah, it was funny because the last one, the judge looked at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Just don't move your head much, you know. Yeah, don't move."
That's
So
hilarious.
that's kind of what I use for that. Actually, I keep it taped up just so if I have to adjust the seat around and everything, I always can come back to it. But man, I've got tape on my B pillars. I've got little spongy things hanging off the stuff. It's almost just kind of common.
People who aren't
I,
into this hobby would probably look at us like we're crazy.
I don't need to go to a lot of people. I can just go look at my wife, and I get that look all the time. So yeah, when I was doing this, I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I was in the car, out of the car, going back, you know, and she's just looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "It'll never make sense. So just don't even ask."
So with the evolution
But
of the F-150 with your truck, and you're doing all these things, trial and error. So what would you say what worked and what didn't? Like what you know, what was your biggest aha moment where you're like, okay, that well, why am I wasting my time with this when I could have been doing this?
right. I have OEM, you know, the mid bass doors, and they're just so bad. And I've gone through four speaker, and one aha moment, I was like, you know, it doesn't matter how many different kind of mid bass I put in my door. I've had Morel, I've had Excelsis, I've got some Stereo Integrity sitting there right now. The response is just going to look exactly the same almost every single time. I'm going to get the cabin null on everything. I thought that changing things up was gonna make a difference, and you just can't overcome the deficiencies of your car. That was the biggest aha moment as far as that. Also, my truck, while I have shallow subs now, and that's going to be my next probably big change, is I don't have to have huge output on bass. Accuracy is more important to me, but I always struggle on that low frequency extension. You know, when you start getting down into the 25 below frequency response. So I'm probably going to do a seat lift and put a little more stout, just a single sub. And I'm also found that I think I have a hard time. Getting phase cohesion with my typical truck box bass. You know, most of the truck boxes, you put them in, a truck box, and one sub's behind the passenger, one sub's behind the driver. I'm going to go to one just for a little more ease, or a little more ease of tuning when it comes to the phase. You know, going from the sub to the mid bass, getting phase cohesion through the crossovers there. So that's probably that. In my truck specifically though, and like I mentioned before, going the three-way with the mid range in the dash was just an absolute game changer for me. I couldn't believe the difference when I got a good tune on a three-way. I was running a two, and it's not that you can't get a great sound on a two-way, but man, when that happened, I was like, wow, this is, and it's definitely the strength of my system is that. So, anybody thinking about doing that, I know there's a lot of talk about mid-range, dash speakers and all that good stuff. And it really was a game changer for me.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize what, you can unlock a lot with a three-way. I mean, I've heard Ryan's car had,
a wideband.
Yeah, wideband. Yeah. He had the Excelsius wideband. It was a beta speaker, though. I don't even know if it's in production. And his system sounded really, really good. And I was really surprised. But there was things missing, and it was compromises. And with everything, there's a compromise. In every car, every system, there's a compromise. You know what I mean? Like, I can't count how many times I've gotten in somebody's car, and I'm like, man, I wish my bass was like that, or I wish my mid sounded like that. It's just a compromise. Yeah.
It is. And, you see like some of these just unbelievable cars, you'll see some, and what they do to get to that point and, to get to that level. And I tell people, I'm like, look, you need to put this in perspective when you start getting into this. I said, especially, a lot of these guys, you're getting advice from somebody who's in that they're seeking that last 5%, you can't, to get to that level. Most people, you don't even know what you're listening to at that level unless you've just been training yourself on, getting the layering and all that good stuff. I tell most people, I'm like, look, what's your goal with this? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're not trying to compete, you could, like you said, put a wideband in the dash, some 6.5 mid bass in the door and a basic DSP, and you're going to be happy as a clam. For a driving around system, if you're not competing, most people would be more than happy with that.
Oh yeah. So the people that don't realize that, I'm missing a little bit of the lower mid range with this wideband, and it's like only somebody like us would know that, but other people, the 90% of people would be, like you said, happy as a clam with a system like that, because Ryan's car sounded fantastic.
I still haven't heard Ryan's car.
Yeah, I haven't heard. Yeah, because you're all the way in Florida.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was the last meetup I wanted to go to, but I'll try to go to another get together where everybody's there. Hopefully get a chance. But
so Todd's have soon in Pennsylvania, and that's a little closer to you. But I mean, you're still up. You're still. I was thinking of going to SVR, Steel Valley Regionals, just taking a plane out there and renting a hotel for a day or two, and just to hear these cars, and because a lot of the guys from the East Coast go up, go out there and or to Aggieland and stuff like that, and just to fly out there and experience that would be nice too,
Well, I think that's probably some of the best cars. Definitely goes FE, and I would like to go to Aggieland.
Once you got your car or your truck dialed in and everything, so you started competing. What was that like? What was your first competition like? I mean, you must have been nervous when you did that.
Well, it's funny. I didn't really feel nerves until I went to the World Finals last year in Alabama. And that was kind of my intention. I said, I'm going to see if I can take this all the way. And by this time, I mean, the hooks were in bad. I was just spending huge amounts of time researching. And once I had my basic installation where I was moderately happy with, that's where I really, really started to focus on tuning and all of that. So, but my first competition was at OTS Audio, and it was a small competition. I had obviously reached out to Angie Landis. She was organizing all the Florida stuff. She's the IASCA contact for Florida. Did my first one and placed, and I'm like, oh, hey, this is great, But before we had done that, I had reached out to a couple guys that were in the area, and I said, hey, listen, I'm really thinking about competing. Are you guys interested in this? So I met the first guy I met for our group here was on DIY's Tunes. His name's Greg. Mm-hmm. And we met at OTS Audio, and I was like, hey, man, you want to meet on Sunday? He's like, okay, we didn't know each other from Adam. I'm like, well, I hope, he doesn't try to jack my car, or, he steals something from me. I wasn't sure. So we meet. He's a nice guy. Come to find out, we both went to high school together. So it was a small world.
Wow. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I know. We knew the same people. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's basically what started it. So then we reached out to a couple others. We met Aaron down, brought him in, and, we're all truck guys down here. We all have trucks. So it's kind of funny. I tease you guys about cars and stuff because all we have are, most of our stuff is trucks. I don't think, I don't think many of you guys have trucks, for competitions. Do you? I think almost everybody has cars. Ryan's a Camry.
I would say like it's like 20-30% trucks. Yeah. Which is ironic
Okay.
because I used to live in Florida. You're not kidding. I don't know why trucks are so big in Florida. Because when you mentioned Dean and Fernando earlier, and I'm like, every other car that they have on his show are F-150s, and Ford
Oh yeah.
Ford F-150s sell like hotcakes in Florida, which is ironic because it's hot down there. You would think that
I know.
trucks would sell more in the East Coast, but ironically, everybody's a truck person out in Texas and in Florida. Like it's a big
Oh
thing,
yeah.
and they get
My truck.
horrible miles per gallon. So
Oh, terrible,
yeah,
terrible. My truck makes absolutely no sense whatsoever,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
have it. So
yep. I call it smiles per gallon. That's what I tell people. I'm like, it's
it's
miles
yeah.
per
We
gallon.
don't talk about gas mileage with a truck. It's not a good topic.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, I
but
know, once you got a truck though, because I've driven trucks for work and I've had them and I got to take them home and I'm like, I could see their appeal. I just don't see the appeal with the gas. That's the only thing. Because
there's no appeal.
there's utilitarian. I know this, that once you have a truck, it's just like a pool. All of a sudden, you have new friends that people want. They want favors from
Oh
you.
yeah. Oh no, that's when everybody moves, you get the call like,
Yep.
hey man, can you come over and move this couch for me? You're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, it's well, and that was another thing because we started kind of our own little Florida SQ group here, and everybody had trucks, so we all had similar problems. But that's what got it going. We started OTS. Sammy was the judge, and then we reached out to Tony Pascal, who runs MECA down here, and that was really our only two avenues.
Mhm.
And both Angie and Tony are fantastic. I can't speak highly enough about them. Tony brought us in. He's got his little shop over in Orlando. Now, the first MECA competition I went to was Made of Steel. And I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it
No,
is
I
a
haven't. I
huge.
think I've heard it in passing now that you mention it, Made of Steel, but
It's an SPL show,
yeah, yeah.
and it's one of their biggest. Well, I had never been to one before. And MECA has this thing where they will do the SQ judging before, and then the boomers they won't let them tee off until around 10 or so that later that morning.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was our first show, and I had never been to any show before, so that was my first MECA show. And then when and all of like Down for Sound and all these huge SPL companies were there, and there was thousands of people there. And when the cars started teeing off, I had never heard anything like it before. I mean, I'm seeing these cars. I went to the bathroom. I thought the building was going to come down
Yeah,
on me.
yeah.
It was just the base was incredible. Great builds, but I couldn't get out there fast enough.
It's not for me, but it's kind of like I've said this before in past podcasts. That's what kind of brings people out, though. That's those big booming
Oh,
systems is what gets people's attention. You know what I mean? The pinky up crowd like ourselves, like you barely even know the system's on, like, but those big systems that are shaking the earth and everything like that. That's what gets people like. I brought my son and his girlfriend at the time out to a SQ show, and they were bored to death.
terrible. And then they'll go to that, and it's just and I was like, that is the formula. Whatever the SQ crowd, that's the formula to use to get people out.
Yeah.
Because that
Yep.
it was just so many people. But
Yep.
and it was interesting to see. So and I it was nice going through with a bunch of other guys who were all novices at the same time. That's what pretty much got me through that group of guys. And we started talking about, well, if we qualify, let's do finals. And you got to do a grind, you got to do your points and get all your accumulated points. So we focused on MECA and IASCA, and James and I. James is Brahma Bull on DIY. Greg was going to go, and he couldn't, and so we ended up going, and that was probably when I felt intimidation. The other shows, the smaller shows, just going to get your points weren't huge, but when you got to that at that venue, and then you're starting to see everybody there, like, oh my gosh, I've seen this guy's car on YouTube, and there it is, and that was a little more intimidating. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the first time I kind of felt it.
So from what I realized, I've seen some of these guys' vehicles, on YouTube, and I've seen them, and at the meets, I get to meet up with them, and just beautiful installs. And I listened to Angie's car before. She's got an awesome install, and
Awesome
very
car.
very
Yep.
showy. Yeah, what is it? An Avalon, Toyota Avalon, I think.
Yep.
And
She runs Audio Frog speakers, I think.
yeah, she runs all Audio Frog, and she's got a beautiful system. It sounds great. 6 foot tall trophies. She came out here, by the way, so you got no excuse, buddy. She drove out here like 2 years ago.
I between her and Scott Smith, they're road warriors. I can't keep up with them. They are
Yeah,
just
yeah.
absolute road warriors. They go everywhere. But
Yeah, I mean, it is a rough drive. That's what that, I've driven out to Florida. I lived there for a year, but driving, 1,000 miles plus does get rough on the body.
I I will probably for future, I always still go to the locals, but I will probably be a little more target specific and do the bigger shows with multiple judges because that's kind of what I like. Yeah, I will try when life is not so busy. I will definitely try to do a little more driving and get out to some of the shows.
So in the DIY crowd, when we weren't doing competitions, one of the things that we like to do is we like to do meetups. We do the meetups over here, and
Hmm.
I feel like the meetups, I'm more comfortable at the meetups because everybody's demoing their cars, everybody's just talking shop, everybody's talking about car audio, and you get to demo people's cars, and that's one way to get a reference. That's one of the tips I give anybody out there that's getting into this hobby. Is I think that was my aha moment when I realized what you should do is get a reference for what you should be listening for. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because it's like throwing
absolutely.
darts, and if you're not going to hit the target if you don't know where the target is.
Exactly. So true.
Yep.
And you're right. I think most people are comfortable. Like I really wanted to go up to, the Jason's one in North Carolina. I heard that's just such a great one. And I was so sorry I couldn't go this year, but I plan on going next year. But I think most people are more comfortable doing that. They want to just go see what it's about, and going headfirst in a competition like I did is probably not the best way to do it. But that's just how I roll, I guess.
So you've been doing pretty
So.
good though. You've been placing and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I've been very fortunate. I when I really started getting to tuning, things started coming together a little more. But yeah, I usually do pretty well in competitions, and I go in not expecting to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And then and when you go in and you're going against, of course, some of the best tuners in the country and some of their cars, and that I use that as a reference as well. But the last time, like in the money round, I was so happy with getting 12th in the money round. I was just a few points off from getting in top 10. That was huge for me because I know I'll never have the skills to take it all the way, but just to even get in the ring, cars tuned by the Myers and Jeff Hall and some of these other guys, it's just like, man, this okay. This is I really feel like I accomplished something. That's how I do. But you're right, as far as the reference systems, it's so important, especially to get in that last 10% that you're trying to hunt. If you don't know what it's supposed to sound like, you won't know how to tune it to that. And that's so helpful. Just hearing what it's a real. I remember one of the first cars I listened to at the finals was Mark Bruno's.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he has got a nice car. I mean,
Oh
and it
yeah,
just
yeah. It's a beautiful install. It's a
yeah,
beautiful car.
oh my God, his stage just goes for miles. It's so deep and it goes all the way back. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But I
And that
mean,
kind of gives you a good idea.
yeah. Oh, that gives you a great idea.
Yeah, I'm
But
like, okay.
the thing is about a car like that I'm not saying it's not achievable by us, by the regular Joe on a DIY scale, but you're talking about, at least in my opinion, this is just my 2 cents. You're talking about an extremely professional, setup system that's got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, trial and error,
Fully.
and experience. And you're talking about, I mean, I would imagine a system like that I wouldn't doubt if it was $250,000. You know what I mean? All the stuff he's done on there.
I can only imagine. And that is what he said when I asked him about it. He says, man, this is just something it's the same tune I've been working on for years. He goes,
Yep.
just a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there. It's taken him a long time to get to that. So like I said, it's a labor of love. You gotta want to do it. But
Like I tell people, like, sort of, I don't know if you saw Brian Mitchell's car. That's an extreme build right there too. And that, those are cars you
yes,
don't, even if you could drive Brian Mitchell's car or Mark Bruno's car, I wouldn't daily drive a car like that. Like that's just such
no
a
way.
monster amount of energy, a monster amount of money and labor put into a car like that. You don't want some teenage punk running into you or some old lady
Ah,
accidentally hitting you by, whatever.
let's not even go that far. I wouldn't want some pebble flying up on the interstate and cracking my windshield.
I often tell people, I'm like, you know what? You want to get a reference? Get yourself a decent pair of monitor speakers, like near field monitor speakers, and set them
Hmm.
up in your office or in your studio, your room, whatever. so that you could get at least hear the stereo effect, because I would say 99% of people don't know what stereo means. Like to me, like it's like, hey
Right.
man, nice stereo, like in you remember those stereo rack systems we used to have in our house? Stereo
Yes.
can mean two things, I mean, stereo, the physical component hardware version of it, but also the stereo effect. I didn't know about the
Right.
stereo effect till later in my
Right.
years, and I used to be an installer, and I didn't know what the
Oh, I didn't
stereo
know that.
effect
Okay.
is. Most musicians don't know what the stereo effect is, and
Right.
I would even take a stab at most music doesn't contain the stereo effect. At least most new music doesn't contain the
Right.
stereo effect, or is not mastered to have the stereo effect. That's why some people, you'll come to see that a lot of our playlists are the same. Funny, because a lot of the music that we listen to, we all have the same songs. It's like because we've all curated
Oh,
these
yeah.
lists.
And they're the songs that sound the best on systems.
Yeah, they show your system off really good,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
to get that stereo effect, that phantom image, that where your speakers just disappear, that's what, when I started to go to the meetups, that's what I realized. I was like, oh my God. Like when I was like, the music doesn't even sound like it's coming out of the speaker. It sounds like it's coming from the center. Like you're looking at the speaker and you're like, the music's not coming from there. Somebody put a speaker in the middle and they're messing with me.
I know. Yes. And
Yeah.
that was what blew me away the first time. I'm like, this just sounds weird. I'm just not used to hearing it like this. But yeah, that is it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's funny because and now everybody's messing around with like the Atmos and all that stuff. I'm hearing all kinds of different stuff, so different ways. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I noticed that Pioneer is coming out with something that's sort of like that, and I'm like, I don't know, physics is physics, and I think a lot of it, some of that stuff is gimmicky. I
I
think,
haven't heard any of it yet. So
yeah, I haven't heard it either. I know Andy likes, some people like to have like multiple speakers. I'm surprised you even have rear fill in a pickup truck.
I do, but I haven't used it for competition yet. I'm still kind of playing around with that, and I just haven't got it to a point. And it's in probably a crappy location for rear fill. I think most of the rear fill, especially in the trucks, they have them back on the C pillars high, down. Whereas mine are down low in the rear doors, and it really every time I mess with it, and I've done differential, then just done this regular rear fill with delay. Some songs I get a little bit maybe, but I'm just not comfortable enough with it. So I've actually found simple is the best. I like Mike Myers' car. I think when I heard his car the first time, I had like, he was running 4 speakers. I don't think he had the tweeters hooked up, and I was just like amazed. I think sometimes people tend to overcomplicate it, especially people getting into it. That's why I tell them, like, just keep it simple, learn and get what you have as good as you can get it before you move on. That would be, my advice to someone. But
I've noticed that too. Like, you just took the words out of my mouth, that the more speakers you got in there, the more complex and the more tuning and the more mistakes you can make. So yeah, I try to keep it simple. I mean, if I could go with a 2-way, I would go with a 2-way, but in my car, I pretty much needed a 3-way to bring it up. A lot of
yeah,
things are basically limited to what your car is capable of too.
exactly.
So as a DIYer, I know that you're a hardcore DIYer. How important is the community? I know that, a lot of people, they don't know where to even start. Like discuss like meeting people who share the same passion, mentors, friendships, and why enthusiasts like helping newcomers. What do you think about that? How important the community is to this, to a DIYer anyway.
For SQ purposes, for sound quality purposes, it's huge because it's such a small community. I mean, there's just not many. My group of guys, Greg, Aaron, James, Kelly, Brody, some of these guys down here, we've all helped each other through. And especially for this, I mean, it's a concept that no one really even knows what it is. You almost have to, when someone gets in your car, when I demo my truck, I give them a 5-minute little educational thing. I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. This is why it's going to sound, how it's supposed to sound. It's going to sound a little differently than what you're used to. Most people don't, know anything about. And so having the guys here, it's pulled me through. I mean, I a lot of times with a lot of things that I only have interest because I know they're going, and if they're not going, well, I'm like, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. But when a couple of them are going, and it makes all the difference in the world. But getting a mentor who's willing to take the time is just massive if you really want to get serious into it. So I kid you guys, but like the Dirac guys in the group, like Ryan and Logan and Todd and some of those other guys, they're kind of my unofficial mentors because this system is not widely used. Not as many people use it, especially for competitions. Almost everybody's Arc Audio or Helix or Zapco or whatever the case may be. But not a lot of people are running Dirac. Having that for this, I probably would have given up on it a long time ago.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I would have. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I've never, in 2.5 years ago, I couldn't have told you a thing about any of this. So if I didn't have someone helping me with it, I would have just probably gone to where I could have found the most help. And it probably would have been a Helix.
Yeah.
I would have gone back to the Helix just because there's so much information on that out there that would have made the most sense. Those guys are huge. And like I could call any of them right now, and they have. Like I've called them and said, "Hey man, I can't get this. Can you come over and help me?" And just right there, comes to the house. We've all been to each other's homes, and it's just we've gone to the area, and it's nice to find that for this because it's just not a lot of people that do it.
Oh, I wish I had some people close by. That's one of the reasons.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I chose the MiniDSP with Dirac was I don't have a tuner nearby. You know what I mean? Like, because Dirac does a lot of the heavy lifting, like you said. A lot of people wonder why there's not a lot of people using the MiniDSP with Dirac, and people take that almost as a negative. And it's like, well, think about it. A shop doesn't want a component like that does a lot of the heavy lifting. They want that labor to do the tuning. They want to be able to charge.
Oh, of course.
For that, they want a human, and I mean that's good too if you have somebody in your area that's nearby, or you're content with a single tune. Because I've seen people with the Helix, and they got a tune by and I'm not going to drop any names, but I'm talking big names in the tuning industry, and the tune wasn't quite there because there's always even with a Dirac tune, there's little things that you could shave at and keep tweaking. So
no doubt.
Even with big name tuners, they could still get in there, and because every ear is different. So the tuner, a remote tune doesn't get you as close as to an in-person tune.
No, I'd say I agree 100%. I think, I think the remote tune, and my first tune I heard was a remote tune, and it was great. It was a fantastic tune.
Yeah.
But yeah, you if you're going to spend any, well, I tell people, I'm going, if you don't want to go this DIY route, that's fine. But get a professional tune and then just be done with it, and make it easy. But if you're going to go to the DIY route, yeah, it definitely. And Dirac is not easy. I mean, Dirac is a huge learning curve for it. It definitely, for a DIY, it's a great system.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only thing that I would say is a big negative is, since Helix is kind of like the big boy on the block right now, Helix Brax, that it's basically Audio Tech Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
Audio Tech Fisher has a lot of big names behind it. It's got Peter from PS Sound and Miguel Rios and Nick Apicella. They all, everybody endorses. MiniDSP with Dirac is kind of like, who the hell is that? What the hell is that? It's the redheaded stepchild of the DSPs. But like I was saying before, the shops aren't gonna, they're not gonna want to endorse a product that they're not gonna make money on. At the end of the day, like, well, a lot of these hobbies, a lot of these companies, and a lot of these people that tune, it's definitely about, I know they're passionate about it and they love audio, but it's also to keep the lights on. They need something that they can make money on. And a lot of companies aren't going to, not that they can't make money on Dirac. It's that the Dirac has a different learning curve than I believe. What I wish, because Dirac isn't the popular boy on the block or the popular girl on the block, is that there's not much like development on it. There's not like a version 2 now or anything like that. Like, I believe, what did our MiniDSP come out like in 2017, right?
The GUI is pretty basic on it. It is not. You look at some of these other DSPs, you're like, oh my god, ours is basic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it still works. It's still powerful and can mop the floor with some Helix system, setups and stuff like that. And in the right hands, any DSP is powerful if it has enough features.
Yes, Absolutely.
That's my major gripe with Mini DSP right now, and not that they abandoned us, because you could still buy it, but that they haven't kind of kept on with R&D on it. You know what I mean? It seems to be kind of
I
dead in the
tried
water.
I tried to coax them out on it. I posted on the Mini DSP forum, and I posted my competition trophies just as kind of a preface to, hey guys, look at me. I'm doing the Mini DSP and I'm doing really, really well. Do
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
have anything coming? And I was like, I saw a Goldhorn the other day that has all these features. Is Mini DSP coming out with anything soon? And they just the admins just gave me a like, and that was all. They wouldn't say anything. So I was like, well, I guess I have my answer there. So
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm just, I like the Mini too, because I've always been kind of a go against the grain kind of guy. So when someone tells me,
Same. I'm
oh,
the
well,
same.
everybody's doing this, I'm like, well, then I'm just going to go the other direction and see if I can make it good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind
I'm
of
the
how I've been.
same. I'm that guy that I'm kind of like, I like the underdog. So
Yes.
I like that type. I have that mentality. But earlier you were talking about how you said you had some Museway components, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's funny
Um,
that I've every time that I've run into a car with Museway or Museway speakers or anything Museway, I'm impressed. I have some Museway stuff here sitting on my shelf, and I'm really surprised that Museway isn't as popular in the U.S. as other components too. As other audio manufacturers. And I'm like,
yeah.
this needs more exposure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's big in Europe. I think it's used on their competition circuit over. And I was, like I said, it's kind of that go against the grain thing. But I was looking at reviews on some of the gear that over in Europe, and some of that, like the Eaton and the Museway and some of these other things. And everyone was just raving about the Museway. And I'm like, well, hey man, I'm gonna give it a try. And I've already run through several cycles of amps, and I probably won't be my last amplifier. But yeah, they've performed. They've been excellent. They're small. They're Class D. I never used anything but a Class D amp, and they've worked really well. I ran the whole season with them, and have no complaints.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
yeah,
know.
and I think Ryan is trying one of the tweeters, and I think some of the speakers, and everyone's raved about the Museway speakers, and
Actually, I sold
I don't know about
Ryan
trying
the Museway tweeters that he's installing now.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I have a bunch of Museway goodies here at my house, and they're still in the box. I haven't touched them, but I'm like, I hear so much good stuff about them, and every time that I sell like a component, I ask the person, hey, how do you like them? And they just have nothing but good things to say about it, and that's why I've been kind of surprised. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the European side of things that people don't even realize that that's some good stuff. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
those who know. I think Gary Bell's always talking about Museway and how good it is, and his buddy there was joking, saying that he gets a cut of it or something. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I'm like, you got to try it.
Well, if you order from Europe, it's not bad, but you start coming back over here, it goes up. It's definitely, I don't throw that out as far as retail and why things are the way they are. But I don't even think Museway USA was here yet when I first ordered them. So I ordered mine from Europe. I ordered from a shop in Italy,
Yeah,
and
yeah, same.
they were pennies on the dollar. They really weren't that expensive.
Yep. Well, not anymore
But
with the tariffs. Last time when I ordered those
well, yeah,
tweeters,
right.
yeah, I got
Yeah,
hosed.
I haven't done it since then, so I'm just kind of holding the line with what I have right now. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do an amp change out anytime soon. And to be honest, I competed with, and I know everybody bashes audio control, but I've had a great experience with them. I competed the first quarter of the season last year, and I had my audio control amps in, and they're just fine. I couldn't tell a difference between a lot of it. They're all. I think you get a certain level of Class D, and I can't tell much of a difference. It's not to say I'm the trained listener or anything like that, but I haven't had any problems with it. And I ran JL before that amps, and I didn't have any problems with those amps. So, I guess I'm not as concerned with amps. It's just, to me, the amp is probably one of the least important part of the game. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, but that's sort of my thought process on that.
Oh, I agree. I've gotten into cars that had these, those one channel amps. I think they're called micro precision, and I was expecting to
Oh
be blown
yes.
away, and I honestly, I really wasn't blown away. I wasn't. I was like, yeah, the system sounded clean, sounded good, but you get to a level of diminishing results, you know, like once you start.
Yeah, and I don't take anything away from this is a hobby, and when people get, they get true enjoyment, and just some of these systems are they're just stunning. I mean, I look at them like, oh my god, gorgeous amps, they're beautiful fabrication, but like you said on the diminishing returns, I just, it's a hobby. If you want to spend that kind of money, great, I think it's great, but I've always been, I want to kind of do things with, I want to try things with equipment that not everybody uses, or maybe they say it's not SQ or, whatever. So, but I do appreciate, some of the companies as far as the support goes. And, there's just so much out there. And like you said, we're talking about the information overload. You talk about information overload, go and just ask, hey, what kind of amp should I buy? And it's like, oh my God. It goes in hundreds and hundreds. Oh, you get this, you get that. I'm going, okay, this didn't help me at all.
Yep. You know what I've noticed about the internet is, you know what they say, how everybody's got an opinion, and
yeah.
But what I've noticed is that some people just want to be so strong with their convictions. It's like, you know what, just pick an amp and go with it. Pick a good amp. I picked my amps based on the power and size. That's what I picked it on, because I honestly, I had some old Audison stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but they were huge. The amps that I had, they fit really good in my old car, but when I got my new car, I was like, these aren't gonna fit. So I started looking around for amps that had a footprint that would fit in my car, and I ended up landing on the Mosconis, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
and people are always bashing on the Mosconis, and I'm like, man, get in my car. I know people that had Mosconis
really?
and won tons of competitions with them. Oh yeah, well, did like a test. He was testing amps, and he said that I guess Mosconi didn't do so well in the tests or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh yeah, like that in the Zapco. Yeah, I saw some of those.
like that's gonna stop me from buying Mosconi when I've seen cars, big name competitors using Mosconi, and some people swear by Mosconi, and I'm like, unless you have ears like a bat, you're not going to hear this distortion that this guy's talking about. And, not all distortion is bad or whatever. Like, and people are like, oh yeah, distortion. And they just talk smack about, because of this one guy. I'm like, really? You guys are going to take this from, and I'm not taking anything away. You guys got to take this information with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Like, I've sat in plenty of vehicles that had Mosconi setups and they sounded clean as a whistle.
Hey, you think Mosconi is bad, buddy? Why don't you drive around with some audio control amps in an SQ meet and see what happens?
Oh, I had audio control.
No, I agree. I will tell people, anyone listening who's thinking of getting into this, do not go on Facebook and get your advice from that. It's just horrible. Some of the things I see are horrible.
Oh yeah.
Get something you like, get something that works for you. Make sure the amp doesn't give you any noise and gives you good clean power, and go with it, But boy, you go on and ask a question, and I mean, like you said, it gets pretty nasty fast. And that's it's unfortunate, because I think a lot of these people, that they'll give recommendations and they're just parroting what someone else says.
That's exactly
no
what they're doing.
It's like, I'm like, okay, so you're trashing this. Well, have you ever even heard the amp? Have you had the amp in your car? You're sitting there trashing this, trashing that. You probably never even listened to it. You heard so-and-so say so-and-so, and it's really kind of funny. That's the one thing I don't really like about car audio, as far as, and I'm speaking as an outsider that's coming in, is that, I mean, it's just horribly toxic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People are just nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they get on an opinion and they will hold that, and they'll fight for it. I mean, it's like, it's fighting words. So that is baffling to me. So I just have never understood that. And
oh yeah, the biggest one. So I run Focal. I don't know if you've ever seen my setup, but I run Focal, and the biggest thing that people misconception anyway is that Focal has harsh tweeters. That's what everybody says, that their tweeters run hot.
Going.
Yeah. So like, you ask anybody, like if you were to play a game, like if we had one of those games that to associate words, and somebody says Mosconi, loud or noisy amplifiers, Focal, harsh tweeters, and and it's like, no, you guys are regurgitating and parroting stuff that you've heard. You've never even heard Mosconi. Any tweeter can get harsh. Any speaker can get harsh, regardless of material, soft dome, hard dome, beryllium, whatever they're running. And if you tune it wrong, it could be harsh. I at the last meet, this guy had the same exact setup as I did. He had Focal Beryllium tweeters and the Focal Utopia mid ranges, and he had them pretty much in the same configuration in the A pillars and the sail panels like I did. And his system sounded harsh because it wasn't tuned well. He got in my car and I said, "Here, come listen to my car." And he's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know my tweeters could sound like that." And I'm like, "Yeah, you need to go back to the drawing board and retune your system." Any tweeter, any speaker could sound harsh. I can make your factory system sound harsh. So, this stuff that people regurgitate if from seeing it on the internet or hearing a car that wasn't properly tuned, and then they think that every single speaker or car system that has that setup is going to sound like that. It's like, no, dude, it's not the reference for that particular brand. You know what I mean? And it's like, I've had audio control. The only thing negative that I had with audio control was it clips hard. When it clips, it just goes silent, turns off. And that means you're pushing it too much. You're trying to get too much out of it. Every, I don't care if you have $1 million system, every system has its limitations. So,
and that's another thing people should focus more on, in my opinion. And obviously I'm a 2-year know nothing, but don't focus so much on the gear. And I think that's where people focus on that first, the brand name, and then they'll get it in and they're disappointed because they didn't stick to the basics, the foundation. Make sure you've done proper sound treatment, make sure your install's right, and then tune. I mean, go and get a USB mic and learn Room EQ Wizard, and you will be better than 90% of the people out there if you just focus on those things. And then it won't matter what, be happy with the gear you got, or take it as far as you can. And then you'll know when I'm like, okay, I got to improve my speakers, or I got to do something on this, do something on that. But I think people go at this a little backwards. They focus on getting just this high-end stuff right off, and they think they're just gonna have this magic sounding vehicle. And it's like, you went at this the wrong way, in my opinion, anyway. So.
Oh, definitely. That's what I wanted to end this on. That's what I was going to wrap this up on.
We've been going for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been going for a little over an hour. So I told you it goes by real quick.
The 10 or so people that tune in to listen to me talk, they'll have, maybe they'll still be here. But
well, along those lines, that's what I was going to ask you. What advice, to wrap this show up, what advice do you have for beginners? Like where should they start? Biggest mistakes that beginners make? What's worth spending money on? Stuff like that. And what's not worth chasing? What do people kind of, some people really obsess over, like cables or sound treatment? Like what was your experience, and what advice do you got for beginners?
Well, I won't get into, whether cables, any of that. I mean, to me, take what you have, take the locations you have. Probably one of the first things you should do is what everybody regrets doing. Go research it, get a good quality sound treatment, at least at a basic level. There's plenty of resources out there, and boy, that you can get into some conversations on CLD. But and then understand what's happening with the system. Like I said, learn to tune. You have to first know what you're tuning for. You have to go to like these get-togethers, know the goal that you're trying to achieve, and know that you want to do this yourself. If you don't, it's like I said, it's a labor of love. If you don't want to do it yourself, go talk to some of these pro tuners or some of these pro people that do this. Get their recommendation for gear, have that put in, and have them do your tune, and then just be happy. And then even like if you're not going to compete, and most people don't, remember, you got to keep it in perspective. The guys that are competing, these guys are at high levels. The things they do to their cars, they cut holes. I mean, they're insane. And, it's funny. I'll see people talk about, I got to get a front sub. And I'm like, well, you have no idea if you need a front sub. Have you even seen your response from your subs, what you have now, to see if you need a front sub, or you just automatically think you need a front sub? So just focus on what you have, focus on the principles, the foundation, the good install, the good sound treatment, and then tune. And then you're going to know one day, you're like, man, these speakers are, they're breaking up at this, or they're not extending where I want it. And then you can start researching good gear, because there's just so much out there. So that's would be my advice. Keep it simple. You don't have to go crazy expensive. And there's a lot of really, really excellent budget gear out there. 85%, 90% of people are not going to have any idea what brand you have in your car unless you show them. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
That would
definitely.
be my advice.
That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons the judges don't even look at what's
Yep.
inside your car. You know, most people keep.
Yep. They'll even hide. Now they're hiding speakers. They're hiding the tweeter locations and how they're aimed and everything like that. So yeah, that would be the biggest thing. It's hard to do. You want all the shiny toys. You want the fancy amps. You see all these things at the car shows. You're like, oh my God, get a Helix. You're going to be magic, And
Yep.
I bet most of the people that even have some of these DSPs, they're not even utilizing 20% of what that DSP is capable of. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. A lot of the stuff that they have is overkill, like, but you know what? I look at it like I once heard another podcaster say this, it's funny you mentioned that because, we don't drive by like a $2 million house and yell out the window, snake oil, snake oil.
Right.
There's levels to this shit. You know what I mean? Like there's levels.
Yes,
there's levels. If all you can afford is Rockford Fosgate audio control or used equipment, you're still going to have a good sounding system if tuned correctly, like just because
Absolutely.
this guy's got, Accuton and micro precision doesn't mean that his system is going to just blow you out of the water. That guy had to put just as much effort, if not more, as you did. You know what I mean? So it's all, it's all about whatever you can afford. I mean, I always mention Ryan. I wouldn't say lower cost setups, but he's got what is achievable for most of us out there, oh,
absolutely.
He obviously has the ideal car, that his car is the only car that's ideal. If you have the ideal platform, could be truck, could be car, whatever. You got lucky with the locations, and you have spots for a large mid bass, and the car's relatively rattle free to begin with, like a Lexus is or a Mercedes, or even some like Volvo stuff like that. They're higher quality materials, so you don't have to go nuts with sound treatment like on a cheap car like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, where you just got to go nuts with the sound treatment. One of the things he's done is he's just tuned. He's gone in there and he's constantly experimenting with tunes and locations, and he's gotten sponsored by Excelsius, and they send them beta speakers and he tests them, and he's tested several different speakers, and I think one of his favorites is Excelsius because they do make good stuff.
I have Excelsius.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is just tuning, getting in there and just ringing out what you have, trying to ring out every last drop.
It's like anything else. Practice makes perfect. You can't just go in and do it one time and think it's going to be magic. You got to keep going at it.
Yeah.
Practice, listen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that beginners make, because that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made, was go in there and I think that I needed to change my component. I would go in there and be like, damn it, this mid bass sounds like crap. Let me change it. Oh, damn it, the other one sounded better. Let me put it back. And changing things. And if I was to add up all the money that I spent over the years on the same car, I mean, I probably could have bought my car 3 times over. You know what I mean? Or I could have had the world's best system from the get go. That's sort of one of the fun parts about this hobby, is the journey, is learning and experimenting.
And I'm guilty of it too. I have gone through some stuff. My wife stopped asking what the Amazon packages were coming. She just, thankfully she was good with that. So, but yeah, it's the same thing, whereas they don't realize, learn what is truly doing. Changing your speaker out it's not going to help your mid bass if it's not in phase. You know what I mean? So you got to learn the principles and the foundation of what happens, and then start chasing the gear. But hey, everybody does it their own way, and ultimately it's what makes people happy. That's what it is. It's not what someone else told me I should do. It's what I should do. So.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Some people want to do that journey. Some people want to change their systems, like we change socks. And I see it all the time. Like, he calls himself Rick Wilson, Luke from Dyma, Luke Outlet.
Mm-hmm.
He had an awesome system last year. Speaking of Mosconi, all his amps were Mosconi last year, and for a good 3 or 4 years already. Luke won a bunch of trophies, but he's running noisy Mosconi amps, right?
Yeah, but that's what they say.
Yeah. So yeah, he was winning all these competitions with those crappy Mosconi amps. He recently switched up to like micro precision and Brax amplification, and he's got the Brax.
I have seen his setup. I would love to take a one day and just have him teach me about fabrication, and I mean that amp rack he did in his truck is just stunning. It's unbelievable.
He's a stickler
it's
for
like artwork.
Oh yeah. He's definitely honed his craft, because he's come a long way, and because I saw his truck evolve over the years, and I've met him. I've listened to his system. It sounds great. I would have been happy with his system that he had last year. I wouldn't have touched it. And he switched everything up. And anybody looking in from the outside in, you know, in this bubble that we live in, would be like, these guys are crazy. He's got a beautiful, you know, like it's like saying to somebody, why is he changing that Lamborghini for a Bugatti? You know, it's just some people want to, you know,
because it's a hobby and it's a thing he enjoys.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You know, and if he's got the means and he, you know, he's got the money to do it, more power to him. So, you know, I agree. I don't hate on people that can afford micro precision or Brax like that. You know what I mean? And it's funny how we all judge each other, how we all spend big money on our systems. And we're like, I would never buy micro precision. And it's like, you know, there's people that are running, you know, Rockford Fosgate or audio control, and they're saying the same thing about us. I would never buy Utopias. I'd never buy Excelsior. You know what I mean? So
you're a snob. You're a snob.
Yeah. It cracks me up that we all talk smack and we all like we all judge each other. But we, you know, there's levels to this. Like I said, I don't drive by somebody's house and who's got a $2 million house and be like, snake oil.
Well, just remember, two years ago, I would have just laughed in your face if you told me I'd spend $800 on car audio. Boy, how things change. So yeah, I won't put numbers out. It's probably nowhere near what those micro precision amps are. But you know, hey, I've gone at it hard on some stuff myself. So
yeah. I think we all have, and that's the fun of it. So,
yes.
But you're always chasing that high. You know, you're always chasing that next percent. All right, Cal, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we definitely got enough material for a podcast. I want to thank you. Everybody thank Cal.
Yes.
So, Cal, thank you. I'm going to wrap it up. Say goodbye to everybody, okay?
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, hang on tight, all right?